The Secret and Truth of Predestination. Siefeng, March 3, 2011, translated by Transin and edited by Kayer. Preface. Brushing against shoulders in this life is the result of the 500 times of looking back in the previous lives. To ride in the same boat is the result of 100 years of cultivation. To sleep on the same pillow is the result of millennia of cultivation. Knowing I am not destined to enter her heart, how can I compare with the catkins and swallows? Flowers bloom and wither, tides rise and fall, spring awakens the branches, running water is heartless but the grass welcomes it every year. People may have sorrow or joy and be near or far apart, but the moon will still wax and wane. Born of these scenes, can the word sorrow suffice? Dynasties fall but mountains and rivers remain. So how many times can we see the beautiful sunset? The events of our world are like games of chess. Each game is only new because it is destined to be so. In a life, people endure hardships and twists and turns in the mortal world and repeat samsara. Some people are designated to meet from thousands of miles apart, but not to know their next-door neighbors. All these are predestination. All things are predestined. Definition of predestination. Predestination is the cause of generating, sustaining, destroying, and changing of all forms and all things, and is the cause of all events. It is the bridge and the tie which causes sorrow and joy, separations and reunions. It is the factor which decides the development of matter and the origins of desires, words, and deeds connected to other things in the universe which are bound to happen in the future since beginningless time. It is a kind of debt after receiving other services or graces which have not been paid back timely. It is the set of revenge, wrong with wrong. Several cases of predestination. 614 years ago, Emperor Qingzu of Ming, King of Yan, Zhu killed 873 members of the 9 tribes of the Feng Xiaoru clan. Yet he still could not vent his anger and counted Feng Xiaoru students as one clan and killed them all. Many people perished. Why did that happen? What was its cause? It turned out that Feng Xiaoru's father had selected a cemetery plot. At night, he dreamed that the Red Snake King was sticking his red tongue out and requesting earnestly that he delay the groundbreaking for 1 or 2 days, so that his family could move away. The next day, the Feng family dug the earth and built their tomb as scheduled. Soon, the workers exclaimed, "We have found a red snake pit." Countless red snakes slithered and fled in panic. Feng Xiaoru's father ordered them to kill all the red snakes with fire and knives. That night, the bleeding Red Snake King cursed him in a dream. "I will kill as many of you as you killed of us." Shortly thereafter, the Feng family gave birth to a baby son, Feng Xiaoru. Born into a scholarly family, he was very smart and diligent as a boy. He was eloquent and charming in appearance, and his tongue was red. He was the reincarnation of the Red Snake King. He deliberately resisted an imperial edict from King Yan in order to enrage him and fulfill that curse by implicating his 9 tribes. After killing all 873 members of the Feng clan, the number still could not match the number of the red snakes killed on that day so very long ago. Feng Xiaoru deliberately provoked King Yan again. Even 10 tribes, so what? The king then had all of Feng Xiaoru's students put to death, and the Red Snake King finally got his revenge. In the ancient times, there was a prince who was very handsome, intelligent, and well-educated, and whose closest friend was a young man of equally excellent and outstanding virtues. Like nose-like, the two would discuss state strategies, compose poems and couplets, and toast the moon together. They discussed everything under heaven and were very intimate. One day they went out for fun and met a girl who was unspeakably beautiful, cultured and decent, well-versed in lyre playing, chess, calligraphy and painting, a matchless stunning beauty throughout the whole country. After a period of time, both the prince and the young man confessed their love to the girl, but in the end she chose the common young man rather than the prince. The prince fell into an abyss of depression and pain, and went to see the most accomplished and eminent monk to ask him why this happened. The monk resorted to magic and presented the following view to the prince. On a beach, a beautiful naked woman laid motionless. A man came to the seaside and saw her. He approached her and placed his hand to her nose. Evidently the woman was dead. He turned and walked away. A moment later, a second man arrived. He also saw the woman, and as the man before him had done, he examined to see whether she was alive, but she was indeed dead. He then removed his jacket, covered the woman, and went away. After a while, a third man came. After observing, he too realized that the woman was dead. He stopped and carried her on his back until he found a place at the beach to bury her. He also made a mark for her grave. The eminent monk then said, "The woman who you both love is the woman who died on the beach. The man who took his jacket off and covered her was you in a previous life, and she needed to repay your favor for a period of time in this one. But the man who buried her was your best friend, and she needed to return his favor for the rest of her life." In the late Ming and early Qing dynasties, there was a man from Anhui named Hu Mingxuan. One day, his knees were attacked by impetigo and he suffered a biting pain. As time went on, the impetigo grew worse as a person's face, with eyebrows, eyes, a nose, and a mouth appeared on it. Hu Mingxuan turned to 130 physicians who not only could not heal him, but actually made it much worse. On December 7, 1651, in a dreamy state, Hu Mingxuan faintly heard a voice coming from the impetigo on his knees. "I am Lu Xiaorong from the Liang dynasty of the Five Dynasties, 906 to 923. You killed me in the Luoyang palace. Today I come to take revenge. How can physicians cure you? Confess your sins to Buddha and perhaps you will be remedied." After Hu Mingxuan woke from the dream, he stopped seeking physicians for help and swore to confess and to copy the Buddhist sutras. At first he could stand up with the support of a cane, then he could stand and walk. Eventually he healed without taking any medicine. After more than 700 years, the soul was still looking for his enemy for retaliation. In the time of Buddha Sakyamuni, an elderly man wanted to be a monk. It is important for a monk to have good spiritual roots, so Sakyamuni asked his arhats disciples to see if this person had good ones to decide whether he could be a monk. All the arhats shook their heads after seeing this man and agreed, "No good roots." Arhats could only see 500 cycles of life and found that he had never had any relationship with Buddha during those 500 cycles, so he did not have good roots. Sakyamuni then examined the man and proclaimed, "In the beginningless time, he was a woodcutter. He came across a tiger in the mountain and was so scared that he climbed up a tree and cried out, 'Namo Buddha.' From his cry of 'Namo Buddha,' today his good roots appeared. Sakyamuni ordained him, and he later rose to become an arhat himself." In the Shu kingdom, there was a bully named Guojingzhang. One day he was drunk and hit a poor man Zhaoan with a wine pot. The mouth of the pot smashed his head and killed him immediately. Guojingzhang gave Zhaoan's son a lot of money to help conceal the matter from the law. Soon afterward, Guojingzhang's head grew a sore about 3 to 4 centimeters deep like the one where the pot had hit Zhaoan. His bone was exposed, he bled and discharged a constant stream of pus, and he could occasionally see Zhaoan's face in it. The sore eventually penetrated into his throat and killed him. A scholar in the Yuan dynasty was seriously harmed by a friend. That night, he became enraged and determined to kill the man. He passed a temple on the way to his former friend's house, where an eminent monk stood at the gate. From his deva eyes, the monk saw that the scholar was tailed by a vicious demon. As the scholar arrived at the door of his intended victim's house, an idea struck him. He has turned from being my friend to my enemy, but his mother and wife did me no harm. If I kill him, they will both lose their means of life. After several rounds of inner struggling, he decided to forgive the man, forget the idea of killing him, and go away. On his way back, he passed the same temple where the same monk was still standing at the gate, but this time the monk's deva eyes saw a completely different scene. The vicious demon which had tailed the scholar was gone, and he was escorted by angels above his head. The monk told the scholar what he had seen and asked him what happened. The scholar told his story truthfully, and the monk exclaimed that the demon and the gods were moved by just a thought. The idea of tolerance changed the scholar's fate. He later became an official, and the friend who had betrayed him died on a battlefield. In a mountain village in Damiao Township in Chaoyang City, Liaoning Province, there lived a villager named Li Cheng. Li Cheng's grandmother had a relative named Zhang Qing who used to carry and sell fabrics for the Li family but whose own family was very poor because he lost in everything he did throughout his life, and his family had been supported by Li Cheng until Zhang Qing died. Li Cheng even paid to have him buried. About 1 month afterward, Li Cheng was sleeping soundly in the middle of the night when he suddenly heard someone calling his name. Li Cheng, I am Zhang Qing. I am coming to pay my debt back to you. Li Cheng found it strange after he woke up 3 times in a row from his sleep. Just then the house manager came to tell him, "Master, the big horse just gave birth to a colt." They knew that the colt was Zhang Qing reincarnated and named him that. Several years later, Li Cheng pulled a cart to Beixijiazi and stayed in a postal station there. The next day, the local area was having a fair. In the morning, the horse went to the fair alone and stamped the earthen pots and utensils of a street vendor, leaving only 5 big basins intact. The vendor was very angry and he gripped the horse to find justice. Li Cheng was informed that his horse had made trouble for him and went to the fair to apologize and promised to compensate the vendor for his losses. Li Cheng yelled, Zhang Qing, what is wrong with you today?" The vendor wondered why the horse was named Zhang Qing. Li Cheng told him about Zhang Qing's home and his reincarnation into the horse. The vendor said, "I knew Zhang Qing. I bought some fabrics while he was alive and I still owe him money." He then calculated his losses from the daily wares and the value was exactly what he owed to Zhang Qing, so the balance was even. They all understood why the 5 big basins were left untouched. Yuan Liaofan, the author of the 4 Lessons of Liaofan, in the 16th century was from Jieshen Zhujiang. When he was young, a fortune teller predicted the good and bad fortunes to come in his life, including his rankings in the imperial examinations, his official titles, that he would not father a son, and when he would die. Later, many things were fulfilled accurately just as the fortune teller had predicted. Every day he became increasingly idle, knowing that his fate was predestined and that everything would come along automatically. Then he met Zen master Yungu, who told him, "Fate is created by the self and blessings are sought after by the self. Pursuing it in a correct way. Attaining it depends on your destiny." He began to understand that fate could be changed and became determined to amend his faults. He became tolerant of others' wrongdoings to him and committed to doing good with the greatest determination and perseverance. Surely enough, the original predictions lost accuracy after he decided to change his fate. Not only was he promoted to higher offices, but he also fathered 4 sons and survived a full 16 years longer than had been predicted. The Secret and Truth of Predestination to Xiefeng, translated by Transin and edited by Kayer. The 8 descriptions of predestination. 1. A tie will not end until the debt is paid. Once a tie is formed, only its resolution can dismiss it, and with that, it shall end. 2. Love and hate determine the depths of ties. Some ties are very shallow while others are very deep. The depth of a tie is decided by the degree of love and hate associated with it. The stronger the degree of love or hate, the deeper the tie is. The weaker they are, the shallower it is. 3. The short or long of the tie is determined by debts. Ties are essentially debt relationships. Debt relationships are not related to the amount of the debts as much as to the length of time involved. As long as there is owing, the tie is long. Once the debt is settled, the tie will end. 4. Mortals create ties but Tao ends them. Both good and bad ties are created by mortals. Once a tie is created, it is controlled by the reward and punishment program of Tao, and will eventually befall the person who created it. This is the so-called, good will be rewarded with good and evil will be punished with evil. If it is not repaid now, that is because the time has not yet come. Once the time comes, it will surely be repaid. 5. With neither shape nor form, but with shadows and traces, we can neither see nor touch a tie. It is a kind of non-material existence. It is like a time bomb. We do not know when it will explode, perhaps in a couple of hours or perhaps not for hundreds or thousands of years, but ties have shadows and traces. If we open Buddha eyes to trace them, we can find their origins. 6. The beginning and ending of a tie is but a thought. Once you get a tie, you will have to dismiss it in order to keep it from falling on you, and if you want to eliminate a part of the tie, you will have to do good, especially a hidden good or formless almsgiving. Do evil not to a single thing and do good to all things. Repentance, praying, giving alms, and selfless dedication are the best ways to eliminate ties, especially an evil tie on the halfway. 7. Things arrive when ties arrive and things disappear when ties end. All coincidences and emergency events arise due to ties. The tie makes the meeting. When the tie ends, that is, when the equivalent debts are paid, the event will naturally end. When the tie ends, things will part. 8. Beginning or ending a tie depends on perception. Human life is a process of tying and untying. Everything is tied. Ties are the sea and we are the fish swimming in it. Ties are like invisible, densely woven meshes over which people walk. Divine punishments are slow but sure, with big meshes yet letting nothing slip through. This divine mesh is the tie controlled by Tao. If people do not perceive this, then they cannot escape the divine mesh, and as a result they will rise and fall in the sea of ties and reincarnate until they do. This is how ties form and how they end. The 8 best ways to end worldly ties and form a celestial tie. 1. Praying and repenting, formless almsgiving. Praying and repenting in accordance with the teachings of Jesus Christ, attaining the great vehicle, and making formless almsgiving according to Buddha Shakyamuni's teaching are the ways to end all the evil ties, repay all the debts since the beginningless time, accumulate treasures in heaven, and go directly to the Elysium world, the kingdom of the greatest Creator. 2. Associating with others by following predestined relationships, swallowing humiliation and bearing heavy loads. The ties that we form since beginningless time will come in succession. To this end, we need to associate with others by following our predestined relationships and resolve them in succession. Whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him also the left one, because it is the result of an ill tie. If you do not allow them to smite you, then the ill tie will not end, but will recur in another form in the future. If others scold you, bully you, insult you, or trample upon you, be they relatives, friends, or strangers, then you must accept it with delight and with neither anger nor resentment. Pray for and bless your enemy. 3. Doing evil not to a single thing, doing good to all things. Regardless of what dilemma or situation you find yourself in, you should have only good thoughts, good words, good expressions, and good deeds, never evil ones. Just praise all others and speak not one bad word against any others. However you speak, it must be active, positive, and optimistic. Never passive, negative, or pessimistic. Try your best to bring happiness and joy to people rather than distress and sadness. You should not only treat people this way but all life and all nature. 4. Always giving, never taking. The guiding principle of the universe is that the sum of positive and negative energy is always zero. Losses and gains are always equal. What one gains and loses always balance out. If you lose, you will certainly gain. If you gain, you will certainly lose, so never think that someone owes you, but remind yourself what you owe others. If others bully us, it is because we owe them and it is time to pay them back. If others owe us, be it emotional debt or financial debt, do not ask for it because it will be returned in one way or another, perhaps in this life, perhaps in the afterlife, perhaps from the head, perhaps from the toe. All in all, the law of the sum of negative and positive energy always is zero will work. We just give and leave the taking to Tao. 5. Being apart from the mortal world and avoiding mundane entanglements. Living in the mortal world is to inevitably contact a variety of mortals and laities, but remember that in no case must you ever take advantage of others, not even those closest to you, your parents, children, husband, or wife. In all the universe, heaven and earth, there are no advantages to be had. Whatever advantages you think you have taken are harmful, because you will bear losses to balance them out. Especially when you are dealing with ignorant persons, laities, mortals, sages, let alone the public. If you take gains from beasts and birds, then your nature will be harmed. If you crave gains from people, then you will bear losses from the Tao of heaven. The hard truth is that if you are not corrupt, do not take advantages nor owe debts, then you are staying away from the mortal world and are free from the ties of mundane entanglements. One particularly important thing is that love and sex must always be completely consensual from both sides and totally free from luring or forcing, or such a mundane entanglement will be as difficult to end as cotton or silk. 6. Pursuing celestial beings and worshipping Buddha builds good ties. Celestial beings are in the celestial world. Buddha is in the Buddhist world. Both are good places to be. Building relationships with celestial beings and Buddha gives you hope to exit from samsara and go straight to the realm of freedom. The actual manifestation of spiritual wisdom is giving advantages and benefits to all life in the lower level life space and owing them nothing, building relationships with life of the higher level life space, emulating celestial beings, and worshipping Buddha whenever and wherever you see them. It is always best to have celestial being or Buddha owe something to you. 7. Forgiving the wrong and severing its attraction. We should forgive all those who have ever harmed our life since the beginningless time and stop asking them to repay us. This is the way to completely sever our ties with them and develop no new ones, which can let the attraction of life in the lower level life space completely disappear from us so that we can ascend to heaven and become an immortal. 8. Revering the greatest creator and taking the way of the greatest creator. This is the heart and core to end worldly ties and form a celestial tie, also the top and best way to achieve a state of oneness with man and nature and Tao, as well as to go to the Elysium world. Everything that Life Genuine does is centered on taking the way of the greatest creator. If you want to understand this more deeply, then you will have to read and understand the meanings of Chanyuan Corpus and Siefeng Corpus, enter the new oasis for life, and serve for the Life Genuine era. Conclusion. All forms and things in the universe develop and change as the result of predestination. When predestination exists, then forms, matter, and things exist. When predestination ends, then forms, matter, and things end. Good ties bear good fruit and bad ties bear bad fruit. Mundane entanglements fall into the mortal world, but affinity with Buddha goes to the Elysium world. This truth must be understood. Those who understand the secrets and the truth are celestial beings and Buddha. Those who do not are mortal beings.